Chapter 9. Are you sure this is a good idea, Dad asked, when he dropped Lizzie, Charles, and Rascal off at the stable the next day after school. Rascal was going to meet Kathy, and then Charles was going to watch him while Lizzie took riding lessons. Kathy said I should bring him, Lizzie said. Maybe she'll have some good ideas about training Rascal. Okay, said Dad. Just make sure to keep him on the leash. We don't want him getting into trouble. Maria was waiting. Hi, Rascal, she said, bending down to give the puppy a hug. You're such a cutie. Kathy's going to love you. Where's Kathy, Lizzie asked. Probably in the barn, Maria said. She led the way up to the stables. Rascal followed, pulling on the leash Lizzie was holding. What a great place. Rascal loved all the wonderful smells. There was so much to explore here. And look, what were these huge animals? Were they giant dogs? Rascal likes horses, Lizzie said, laughing at the Rascal pulled her along, stopping at each stall to sniff and greet any horse who would look down to see the little face peering from under their stall. Charles agreed. He's so excited that he's not even barking. Rascal darted from stall to stall, tugging Lizzie from behind. Suddenly, there was a loud booming noise from the end of the hall. Sir Galahad, Lizzie said. The big horse was kicking the stall walls again. She wondered if the horse would scare Rascal, but he didn't look frightened at all. In fact, he pulled even harder in that direction. He wants to meet Sir Galahad, Lizzie told Charles, but that's probably not a good idea. She could picture the little dog getting trampled by the gigantic horse or even kicked. Just then, Kathy stepped out of Minx's stall, carrying a pitchfork and wiping her forehead. Phew, she said. Last stall of the day. Now they're all clean. Hey, is this Rascal? She knelt down, opened her arms, and Rascal pulled so hard that Lizzie had to let go of the leash. The little dog flew towards Kathy, licking her face as she gathered it in for a hug. Well, hello there, cutie, she said, laughing. Aren't you something? Rascal liked this lady. He liked her very, very much. She smelled so nice, and she could tell that she liked him, too. Kathy hugged Rascal close, and Lizzie could see tears in her eyes. She knew Kathy must be thinking of her old dog, Pepper, but Kathy was smiling, too. He's just darling, Kathy said finally, standing up and brushing straw off her jeans. He's going to be bigger than the old dog, and he has more brown spots than Pepper did, but I can tell he has the same personality. Always in a good mood, always curious, always looking for trouble. That's Rascal, Lizzie said, and Charles said. Together, Lizzie introduced her brother. Welcome to the stable, Kathy said, smiling at Charles. You've got your hands full with this guy. Jacks aren't easy to train, but they're worth the work. Pepper was the best dog, once we decided to listen to me. At least once in a while, she sighed. Then you gave her health a little shake. Well, ready for your lesson, she said, asked Lizzie. Definitely, Lizzie said. I think Wayne has Sally tacked up for you already, Kathy said. Wayne, she called down while a man emerged from the tack room. Sally's all set, he called back. Want to meet Rascal? Kathy asked her husband. Lizzie saw Wayne shake his head. Busy, he said, turning around quickly and walking out of the barn. Kathy shrugged. Don't mind him. He just misses Pepper. They were great friends, he said. Now what's Rascal going to do while you and Maria ride, she asked. Charles is going to watch him, Lizzie said. Kathy gave Charles the thumbs up. Excellent. Let's go. She led the way to the riding ring where Sally was waiting. Once Lizzie was sitting in the saddle, Kathy dropped the bombshell. No more lead time, she said. You're on your own today. You're the boss. You tell Sally which way to go and how fast. Lizzie felt her heart pound. How fast? She asked. You mean like I should make a trot or something? She knew that trotting was the next fastest after walking. Then came cantering and galloping. There was no way she was ready for either of those. Even trotting sounded scary, especially since she knew she would have to start learning how to post. Posting meant bouncing up and down in time with the horse's movements. Lizzie had seen Maria do it, but she had no idea how to do it herself. We'll start with walk, Kathy said. Sally's in no hurry. She could walk all day. She grinned at Lizzie. Go on now. Tell her to giddy up and start around the ring clockwise. Lizzie clucked her tongue and gave Sally a little kick, and then Sally started moving. She pulled on the outside of the rein the way Kathy had taught her. And Sally turned. Wow, Lizzie said out loud. She couldn't stop smiling. She was riding. Lizzie forgot everything for the next half hour, and she was concentrating so hard on the lesson that she probably wouldn't have noticed in the barn if she stood up and walked away. But she did notice when Charles started shouting, Rascal, he yelled. Rascal, where are you? The little spotted dog was nowhere in sight. Chapter 10. Charles, Lizzie said, pulling Sally over to the fence. that ran around the riding ring. "Where's Rascal?" From up on the horse, she looked down at her brother. He looked very small, and his face was very white. "I don't know," Charles admitted. "I got tired of holding him, and he was being pretty good. You were busy riding, but Kathy said I could tie him up to the fence." He pointed to the fence post near the gate. "I went to watch Maria riding over in the other ring, and now he's gone." Lizzie could tell that Charles felt awful. "It's not your fault," she told him. By then, Kathy was at Charles's side. "Don't worry," she said, putting an arm around his shoulders. "We'll find Rascal." She looked up at Lizzie. "I think our lesson's over for today," she said. "Want to help getting down?" Lizzie shook her head. "That's okay," she said. She knew how to dismount by now. She pulled her right foot off the stirrup and slid off Sally's back. "I'll bring Sally back into the barn," Lizzie said. "Maybe Rascal's in there. I think he liked all the horses." "Good," Kathy said. "You look there. Charles and I will start checking for some other places." As she led Sally away, Lizzie found herself wishing she would hear Rascal's bark. It seemed as if the stable was the only place was quiet. She hadn't heard him bark once since he arrived. If only he was barking now, they could find him. It took a moment for her eyes to adjust to the darkness of the stables. She led Sally to her stall. "Wait here," she told the mare. "We'll come back and get you off your saddle off for a minute, as soon as we find that bad little puppy." She gave Sally's neck a pat and closed her stall door carefully. Then she headed down the aisle, checking each stall to see if Rascal had wriggled underneath the door for a visit. He wasn't with Willie or Jasper or Treasure. Minx was alone in her stall. So was Jet. Lizzie listened for the booming sound of Sir Galahad's kicks, but the barn was quiet. "What's going on?" Marie asked, hurrying up the aisle. She was still wearing her helmet. "I just heard that Rascal is missing." Lizzie nodded. "I'm checking the stall," she said. She started walking fast towards the end of the aisle. Rascal had been interested in Sir Galahad before. What if he'd gone into the big horse's stall? Why was the grouchy horse's stall so quiet? Maria saw where she was going. "Oh, no," she said. "Do you think—" "I sure hope not," Lizzie said. Both girls hurried down the last stall. Empty. Lizzie said when she looked inside. Rascal wasn't there. And neither was Sir Galahad. "Galahad's out in the paddock?" Wayne said, coming up behind them. "I figured he needed some exercise and some fresh grass since he was so bored." "Wonder if that's where Rascal is, too," Lizzie said. "The dog's missing?" Wayne asked. He followed Lizzie and Maria as they ran outside and around the back of the barn to the paddock. They arrived at the fence at the same time as Charles and Kathy. "There's Sir Galahad," said Maria, pointing at the big horse grazing calmly in the shade of the tree. "And there's Rascal," said Lizzie. She couldn't believe her eyes. The puppy was lying in the shade right next to one of Sir Galahad's big hooves. He looked completely content and relaxed. Lizzie had never seen him that way before. "He's all tuckered out," Kathy said. "But he might get kicked," Charles said. "I doubt it," Wayne said slowly. "Sir Galahad looks pretty happy to have him there." Lizzie thought she'd better call him anyways. "Rascal," she shouted. The one thing she had taught the puppy to do was come when he was called. Sure enough, he jumped to his feet and he began to trot over to the crowd at the fence, trailing his leash behind him. Sir Galahad looked up at the puppy. He took one more bite of grass, and then he trotted after Rascal. Lizzie saw Kathy and Wayne look at each other in surprise. The horse and the dog arrived together at the fence. Rascal jumped up to put both front feet on the railing near Lizzie, poked his nose through, and gave her a lick on the cheek when she bent down to pick up his leash. Hi, hi, hi. I was so happy to see this old friend. He wondered how she liked his new friend. This place was the best place Rascal had ever been. He loved it here. He licked the girl again and to thank her for bringing him here. Meanwhile, Sir Galahad was gently nosing at the pocket of Kathy's coat. "Is this what you want?" she asked, pulling out a carrot. She gave it to him. He took it gently. His ears were standing up straight, and he nickered and he nodded in thanks. "Wow," Kathy said to Wayne. "I haven't seen him so happy since Pepper was around," Wayne said, finishing his wife's sentence. "Why didn't we realize it before? He just missed his friend, that's all. That's why he was so cranky." Wayne reached down to scratch Rascal on the head. "You're a good little guy," he said softly. Lizzie looked at Charles with eyebrows raised. He nodded. So did Maria, who understood what Lizzie was thinking. "Go for it," urged Maria in a whisper. Lizzie took a deep breath. "You know," she said to Kathy and Wayne, "Rascal really seems to be happy here at the stable. He may never have a great inside manners, but he behaves well when he has plenty of room and lots of interesting things to do and see." Kathy was nodding. Lizzie saw her reach out to take Wayne's hand. Wayne looked over at Kathy before gazing down at the puppy again. So Lizzie went on, would you like to adopt? She didn't even have time to wait for an answer. She saw the smiles on their faces as they both knelt down to pat Rascal. The troublesome little puppy had found a home, the best home in the world for him. Lizzie felt a little twinge of sadness. Rascal may have been a handful, but she had gotten attached to this cute little face in Wildy ways. Would she always have to say goodbye to the puppies they fostered, or will one of them finally come home to stay? Lizzie hoped that someday she and Charles and the Bean would have a dog of their very own, but for now she had just had to be happy that they had found the best place for Rascal. Rascal by Ellen Miles.